Hello there, this is Phumlani Majozi, the host of a new show, the Phumlani Majozi Show, where we give you a Black conservative perspective on local and global socio-economic affairs. Remember to get my new book, Lessons from Past Heroes, at a bookstore near you. This is a book written to inspire, to remind South Africans that we can fix this country if we make the right decisions. It's a book about the economics, the history, and the politics of South Africa, a very beautiful history that we have as a nation. So it's a book written to say, you know what, let's get our act together. We have a huge potential as a nation. Today, I'm joined by a very remarkable man, one of South Africa's, top people, one of South Africa's best products that we have produced as a country, and that is Mr. Herman Mashaba. He is the president of Action SA. He's contesting elections this year. He's a former mayor of Johannesburg, Hammanskraal-born entrepreneur, and Black Like Me founder. So, and he says that he's a family man. That's what he says on his X profile, and I love that. That is what he and I will also touch on the importance of the family, because this is what this show is about. We want to talk about free markets, family, stronger law and order, a society that is more built on values that are critical for our social economic development. Mr. Mashaba, great to see you, sir. Thank you for sacrificing your time. I know you're a very busy man trying to make an impact in South Africa. It's great to see you.
Good. Thank you so much, Phumlani, and thank you for giving me the opportunity. And feel free to call me a capitalist, because capitalism, it's in my blood, and yes. I'm unapologetic about it. And the reason why I want people to know me as a capitalist, because we are governed by evil communists who are determined to keep our people poor, uneducated, so that they can control them. And I think I deliberately use the capitalist system, because I'm a free man today because of commerce, because of me at the age of 22, taking a conscious decision under the evil system of apartheid to free myself, and I use commerce to do that. It is for that reason you see me today as a free man. That's why I don't owe anything to this ANC tripartite alliance, where they've managed to capture our people, kept our people poor, but at the same time using it for their own stomach and their own families.
Mr. Mashaba, you've described yourself as a capitalist, an advocate of capitalism, the free enterprise system. Why do you think that is important in our country? Why do we need stronger markets, stronger capitalism, in your view?
Well, I think unless we are happy to be poor, and I've never in my life, I'm 64 right now, and I've never in my life come across anyone who wants to be poor. I was born in abject poverty. My father decided to die when I was 2. My mother had to work as a domestic worker. And I grew up under the guidance of my grandfather, who instilled in me a sense of independence and on being successful, and took a decision at the age of 22 to pursue a business career under the evil system of apartheid, saying, I'm a black man, I cannot go into business. And here it is, many years later, I'm enjoying financial freedom. I'm able to assist society. I don't steal public monies. I use the money that I worked hard for, I've paid taxes on, and I use it, and I've been doing this for the last 40 years. Show me any communist, the role that they've done. Their contribution to society is to steal and oppress others.
I mean, that's very, very interesting. And you say that you emerged, you pursued business during the time where there was really some serious oppression in the country during the apartheid era. what was it that made you to succeed as you did? What does it take to be a successful business person or an entrepreneur? For many young people out there who now live in a democracy, who live in an environment that has better in terms, at least in terms of in the sense that we no longer have those racist apartheid laws that we used to have. What does it take to be a successful business person?
Phumlani, I see you frozen. Is that my? Oh, are you back? You back?
Yes, I'm back.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah, you can hear me now. So, Phumlani, I think we must not really fool ourselves by thinking that it is easier today. As far as I'm concerned, it's more difficult, particularly for black business to operate in this country than it was before. That, for me, it's my lived experience. It's more difficult to go into the townships now, go into the black communities in the villages, go and see who's running businesses. When I grew up, my parents sent me to the shop to go and buy bread, sent me to a butcher to go and buy meat. I used to buy meat or bread and groceries from shops run by the black entrepreneurs, the petrol stations in Soweto run by Sowetans. Today, go to any township, go to any black community to see who's running business. And you know who destroyed the businesses? The Tripartite Alliance. They started first by coming out with what are called draconian labor laws, making it difficult for small businesses to operate. This is the big business and the trade unions conniving. Our current president, who comes from the labor union, and look at his cabinet, look at his members of parliament, look at members of his party. They are using the politics as a way to be rich and make money at the expense of poor people, coming out with laws that makes it difficult for small businesses to operate. They open our borders, allow international criminal syndicates from drug dealers, counter South Africa. It's a country today where the world knows you want to dump the counterfeit goods, expired goods. South Africa is an area where you dump expired goods. International drug syndicates who are not only destroying our youth, they are destroying our families. These evil people have allowed the system to operate. Look at today, will you invest in South Africa where 86 people are being murdered each day, where every 11 minutes a woman is raped? Would you want to invest in a country like that where the president brings money through mattresses and sofas? Would you operate in an environment like that? You in a country where 30 years into our democracy, we're pushing race-based legislation that is actually getting us as South Africans to fight amongst each other. That's why we are so divided along racial lines worse than we were during the apartheid days. So is it easy? It's really more difficult. The only people who succeed today are those who are politically connected, doing business by running not industries and being industrialists, those who are politically connected, running tenders through the phone. People are not ashamed to drive up to 10, 12 cars at a time. So it is not easy today. And I'm not for 1 minute claiming that the apartheid era was better. It's just that we are saying both of these systems were evil. So we replace evil by another evil. And I think for me, what hurts me most is because what is happening today is not a mistake. You see, apartheid government, the National Party, when they pushed the apartheid system, they did this deliberately to exclude black people from mainstream economy. Even this ones, the ANC government for the last 25 years, they've deliberately keep black people poor, make sure that you give them inferior education. We're in a country where 80% of public schools are dysfunctional. Is it a mistake? Absolutely not. If it was not deliberate, how come you still have Njima Mutseha as one of the longest ministers with the worst performance in terms of producing clever blacks? No, he's, as far as ANC is concerned, A.G. Mutseha and Blake Mutsimande are doing a fantastic job for the ANC to keep black people who are uneducated. 44% unemployment rate is the worst sustainable unemployment rate on earth. Mankind has never seen what is really happening. You know, so all these things are not happening by mistake. They are deliberate. They steal money left, right, and center. Every time you see them giving out the tender, it's got absolutely nothing to do with dealing with our challenges. No, it is to do with how much these people can actually steal. And run a business, try and run a business as someone who is not politically connected, as a black person, see how difficult it is. But obviously, they're not just making it difficult for only black people, they also make it difficult for white businesses that are not connected. That's why the ANC and captains of industry, they've been in cahoots. That's why the captains of industry, they've been supportive of Cyril, saying Cyril is a businessman. What business has Cyril ever run in his life?
You seem to be, and I posted this the other day, that what I like about you is that you dislike criminality. You hate crime, and you seem to have a tough stance against crime. You know, economist Thomas Sowell, whom we are going to talk about soon, and I understand you are one of his fans, and his view when it comes to criminality is that to reduce crime in a society, you've got to have stronger law enforcement, right? That does not tolerate criminality, right? In other words, have the mechanisms and systems to suppress and remove, criminals out of communities, so that you leave communities become safer, and that the people who are serious about life are the ones who are left in communities, not criminals. Tell me of the approach you have in mind, briefly, of how we can address. You've just said at least 80 people are murdered in the country. We have really shocking murder rates, even by global standards. Poorer countries in Africa, Mr. Mashaba, they don't have the staggering, murder numbers that we have in this country. Yet we are much we are not as poor as those countries. Yet we have this very shocking, violent criminality that is taking place in the country. Briefly, how do you see as that? Do you agree with Tom Sowell? And I sense that you do, but I want you to affirm that really we need to have a stronger law enforcement and remove criminals out of society.
I've been for many years articulating the fact that there's just no way that you can build a prosperous economy, a successful economy, in an environment of chaos. If you look at all successful nations throughout the world, throughout history, successful, prosperous nation, they succeed because of the respect for the rule of law. That's very important, because you can imagine a society, you and I, we've got a chance here in South Africa of being murdered than anywhere else in the world, including countries at war. You and I, we're not safe. We've got a better chance of being killed, of being murdered. This government has unleashed criminals on society. And why this happens, just really look at the leadership of this country. From the president downwards, these are people who are supposed to be in jail for various crimes. I can give you hundreds of cases why these people are supposed to be in jail. But now what they've done, they've captured the criminal justice system, put in cadres to run the system. That's where the biggest problem is. And I think for us as Action SA, I can tell you, before we went to our policy conference in September last year, from the 12th to the 14th, we gathered over 600 of us. Before that, I was really pushing our policymakers that we must push in the event Action SA is given the mandate. We must go for the death penalty for murderers, for rapists, for drug dealers. And when we few weeks before we got to the conference, and including at the conference, the team actually managed to really convince me, gave me a very compelling argument to say, Herman, the solution short term in South Africa is not going to be killing people, murdering people, because we're going to end up as government only murdering poor people because they will not have the resources to defend themselves in courts of law, firstly. And secondly, our criminal justice system, the police are not equipped to do the proper investigation. Our NPA, our prosecutors are not also equipped to be able to properly prosecute. For that reason, what we are saying is that we need to professionalize the system so that our policemen and women are professional policemen, properly trained. Our prosecutors are properly trained. We need specialized units to deal with murder, to deal with drug dealers. So we deal with the corruption. We need the scorpions or whatever you'd like to call it. And I think that this nonsense of these people being appointed by the president must honestly, we need to change our constitution. We based our constitution on Nelson Mandela. In the meantime, we have people putting money under mattresses. We've got some of them who are rapists and so forth. So we based our constitution on Mandela. Our constitution, without any doubt, it needs to really be revisited. Some aspects of our constitution. We believe as Action SA that our criminal justice system, the head of the NPA, the head of the NPA, all the Chapter 9 institutions must be appointed. We must find a mechanism where they must be elected or appointed in a fair, transparent manner, so that when they have to prosecute, they must prosecute without any fear or favor. But at the same time, we must forget about this Ubuntu concept in South Africa. Ubuntu, let's practice it when we respect the rule of law. We cannot live in a society where someone breaks the law, they come into our country, bring drugs here, and then when we talk about it, then it says, no, you are foiling xenophobia. We must show Ubuntu. Ubuntu, what nonsense, when must Ubuntu apply? Ubuntu must apply when society respects the laws of the country. If you are not happy with those laws, then change the laws. But you cannot really tell me that someone comes into our country, illegally commit crime, and you tell us we can't call them criminals. Someone rapes, to give an example, someone like Thabo Beste, a murderer, a rapist. Why must I give someone like that a second chance and you tell me I must show Ubuntu? A man like that under Action SA will never get parole. We've taken a official position. Once these categories of crime, murderers, rapists, drug traffickers, and corrupt politicians and business people, once they are sentenced to jail, whether it is life or 25 years or 15 years, you must serve 15 years up to the last day. They must not get parole. But over and above that, our taxes of law-abiding citizens must not be used to support these people. These people must go and work. We must go and build prisons in the Kalahari next to fertile soil where they must go and work every day, Monday to Friday. No one this time of the day must be in the prison cells. They must go out and work. And those who cannot meet their targets, then they'll work 7 days, 7 days a week. So that if you want to Ubuntu, then don't commit a crime. But we will have correctional services for petty crimes. We understand we live in a society where 54% of our people live below the bread line, where mom will steal bread because the kids are hungry at home, gets caught. We must absolutely separate such crimes from the real prisoners. These categories, we don't tell me about the correctional services. These people must be in prison. not in correctional services. In correctional services, we must put in petty criminals, people we want back into our society. Also, at the same time, we need to revamp our education. This nonsense of unions being responsible for the appointment of school principal, that must stop with immediate effect. We need one Department of Education. The school principals must be appointed by us as government. The only people we must consult are the community. This principal will be saving. We must, with immediate effect, bring back school inspectors. In fact, personally, I'm calling on South Africans, in the event Action SA gets to be in government, we want anyone under 75. Please come back and work. Come and be school principals. Go and be policemen and women and so forth, because we're going to have special units. We need retired judges, magistrates. Please come back, because we want justice to be served as a matter of urgency. That's why we need to have 24-hour courts, like what we had in 2010. But this must be for the first 5-10 years. We must make sure that you rape someone and we catch you. As soon as possible, you must appear in court and be sentenced or not found guilty. But if you find guilty, we then take you to the Kalahari. You go and work for your upkeep, including your food, including paying back to society. That's how strong we are in fighting the crime. We must close our border, but at the same time, recognize that this country, South Africa, was built at the back of migrants, and we must continue. We must have the red carpet for migrants, people of the world, to come to South Africa, but they must come here legally, and when they're here, they must respect our laws. You break our laws in South Africa, we'll immediately put you in jail. You go and serve, and as soon as the day you serve, if we sentence you to 10 years, on the last day of the 10th day, you get into the next plane, on the next bus, we send you back to your country. So that you must understand South Africa is not a playground for criminals.
Mm-hmm. You know, the president of El Salvador, President Nayib Bukele, he took power in 2019 and took over a country, Mr. Mashaba, that was really struggling with gangs, the gangsters who were really running the country. And Nayib Bukele came with a strategy. And El Salvador at the time was amongst the maybe top 3, if not the highest homicide rates, the murder rates globally when he took over. And Bukele came into power and initiated a strategy where he said, I am going to wage a war against violent criminals. I'm going to wage a war against the gangsters, the gangs who are running his country. And guess what? The numbers look positive now. And in fact, he won the re-election sometime, I think it was early this year, and he got plus 80% vote in terms of being the approval by his people for him to come back into power because he made that country safer than what it was. And the murder rate declined by plus 50% when he initiated that strategy. So I'm trying to say here, this can be done. And I'm raising this because you are amongst the leaders in this country who are on the ground trying to make an impact and trying to bring change. This can be done with leadership that is will and that is really puts the country first. Because if you have this shocking murder rate, it's very disturbing. You know, since I came here, Mr. Mashaba, in I think I got here in 2012 from KwaZulu-Natal, where I come from, to start working. I have been a gun has been pointed my way 3 times. Yeah, a gun. You know, it was traumatic. The first time they did this thing, it was shocking, Mr. Mashaba. The first time they did this thing in Rotterport back in November 2015, the armed criminals stormed into the house, pointed. The owner of the house, the lady owner, had a baby who was 2, 3 years old. They pointed a gun to the baby, took everything that I had and she had at the time. These are armed criminals coming in homes, Mr. Mashaba. In homes, they break in homes. You think you are safe in your home. You are not safe, you know. And that's a fundamental problem. In 2020, I'm driving back home around 8:10 in the evening. As I get into my complex trying to park, criminals, they storm in with guns. I was hijacked. They took the car. This is December 2020. And then this last November, and then I was a day before I was launching my book here in Johannesburg. I was going to pick up my father, who was coming to join us at them to attend the event that would take place the next day. So I was going to pick him up in Johannesburg. And then at the robot there, a guy is banging my left window, and I look. And then as I was looking at him, there's another guy now banging on my right, just here next to me, where I'm driving. This guy is pointing a gun at me. And I'm looking around, Mashaba, everyone is here. This is a busy place. It's around 5:30 p.m. It's people are crossing robots, it's everywhere. Luckily, in front of me, there was oil. On the other lane, there was a space. So I just swerved and pressed, accelerated, and left. So I'm trying to say, and there are many people who are experiencing this thing of crime in the country. And it's traumatic. But you wanted to say something. I see you want to say something.
Yeah, Martin, you and I have been talking, I don't know how many minutes now. Now, how many women have been raped in this country? Because every 11 minutes, a woman is raped in South Africa. I mean, we've got wives, we've got sisters, we've got family members. Our women, majority of the population in South Africa are women. And now we can imagine what we're subjecting them to. And majority of this rapists are serial rapists. These are not the first-time offenders because this corrupt, uncaring, unpatriotic government is focusing on other things except actually controlling crime. Tell me, I'm sure you know the history of our Minister of Police. All South Africans, they know the history of our Minister of Police. Every South African know about the history of our president, who when South Africa has got a very good banking system. Our president in a country that is grey listed, dealing in hard US dollars. But at the same time, he claimed to be hating America, but he likes American dollars. He does not have Russian rupees. This is the kind of country we have. And the people, as I'm talking to you now in the Shebeens, unemployed, they're drinking, they've got drug cartels giving them drugs. Is this deliberate? Is this a mistake? No, it is deliberate because this government wants to see it as being dependent on them. They want us to live. And that's the reason why I'm in politics today. I left my successful business. I'm sure with the little money I have, I can afford to go and live anywhere in the world and play golf every day. But unfortunately, you know what? As much as I hate this job, I've got to do this job. Because one thing that I've been trained over many years, it's in my DNA, is to ensure that I must never allow myself to live side by side with evil. And where I can actually participate in eradicating evil, I must do it. And because we are really facing evil, and I'm appealing to South Africans, particularly Black South Africans, because without Black South Africans, we can't have the government in this country. Any government that's going to be here in a democratic fashion is going to be elected by us as Black people because of our sheer numbers. So I'm appealing to the Black electorate to say, please, guys, let us not destroy the future of our children and our grandchildren. We cannot we're being told 30 years later that these people can self-correct. And look at Thabo Mbeki, someone responsible for the destruction of Zimbabwe, someone responsible, for the death of millions of our people during HIV and AIDS. And someone a few months ago, you were saying ANC is a criminal organization. Look at right now. It's the same man that's going out to say to people, vote for these criminals, we'll talk to them afterwards. And you ask yourself, what on earth is actually happening here? So you can see these people are not really prepared to self-correct until such time that this country is like Zimbabwe, because you look at Zimbabwe, the ZANU-PF, they live like kings when their own people are all over the world. They cannot even produce maize meal today. Whereas 30 years ago, Zimbabwe used to be the breadbasket of Southern Africa. Today, there are people are all over the world. This is not going to happen here in South Africa. For us as South Africans, we've got people like Herman Mashaba to stand up to say, not in our name. I'm really I feel so privileged that I'm not indebted to the ANC. That I have and enjoy my own personal freedom that I enjoy on the 27th of April, 1994.
Yes, yeah. Mr. Mashaba, we have two topics to touch on. We have only 5 minutes. So a quick one. The first one is, you are saying you are a family man. What does that mean? I mean, and how important is the marriage in this world? Because at one point you came to, I once invited you years back to address the young people I was leading at the Free Market Foundation back then. And you spoke about the importance of marriage and how your wife helped you to stabilize and help you to get to where you are today. So briefly, what are your thoughts on that? How important is the family?
The family is not important. It's more than important, because that's a foundation of any nation. And I feel privileged that God gave me the wisdom at the age of 22. Before going into business, I said the first thing I must do is to get married. At the age of 22, my wife or girlfriend at the time was 20. I've now been married for 42 years. And I feel so, honestly, I feel so grateful, feel so privileged that my wife has played such a key role in ensuring that I can really have a reason to go home, have someone to talk to, and really build a family, build a successful business together. That's why I have the privilege. I can leave business and give the responsibility to my wife and to my daughter to help and run our family businesses while I'm busy doing my best to help save South Africa from the ANC instead of running away, because we had an option before I entered politics to say, do we run away? Because I'm a God-fearing person. I said, no, I'm not running away, because if I do run away, God will punish me. And let me rather, please, you guys take care of the businesses. I've built a very strong business structures over 40 years. You guys take over. Let me save the country. And I hope that by the time I reach 70, I can go back to business, because I hate this job that I'm doing. But it's a job that I've got to do. And it's a very rewarding job. But it's not a job for enjoyment, and it's not a job for friendship. It's a job to save South Africa and save society. And I hope I can succeed. Fortunately enough, I've been born to win. Most of the battles I've taken, I've won, but I don't always win. Let's see this one, what will happen on the 29th, because I'm on a mission to wake black people up that, guys, we are not going to turn this country to be another failed African state. Don't never allow anyone to tell you a white man is responsible for your suffering. No white man was voted for this government for the last 30 years. You are the people who have been voting. It's not a white man who has been governing you. Yes, we've had issues with the National Party. That's why we fought them, defeated them. But for the last 30 years, America doesn't vote, is not going to vote. No American person is going to vote on the 29th, or the British. It's us black people who are going to decide the future of this country. We are either going to save this country, or we're going to turn it into another failed African country. And if that happens, us as black people must take personal responsibility for the failure of our government.
Yes,
of our country.
for our country, yeah. And then we have 1 minute, 60 seconds. Thomas Sowell, you are a fan, and I'm sure that you've also met Walter E. Williams, the late economist. Why do you admire Tom Sowell, briefly?
Well, I admire both of them. I've tried when I was in
Walter,
business. Fortunately, being based in San Francisco, it was a bit difficult to go over. But I've had dinner and lunches on 3 occasions with Walter Williams. He was one of my heroes. Unfortunately, I've not had an opportunity to meet with Walter now, and I know age is not on his side. And I'm in politics; I don't have the time to travel any longer. But I've read every book of Thomas Sowell, and every time I talk about a real, genuine son of the soil, a great human being that it is not there to make friends. He's here to actually tell it as it is.
Fantastic. Mr. Mashaba, thank you so much. Great to talk to you, sir. We have a few seconds now. It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for doing this. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it, and all of the best. And I hope you carry on ensuring that Black people in particular can embrace the free market economy and stop this nonsense of communists. Because communists, the only thing communists have ever done in life are mass murderers. If we tell Black people, if they allow communists to govern them, they're going to murder them. You think 80 people be murdered today? Allow communists to take over everything, you will see mass murder at the highest